Another common pilot interview question you could get asked is, how do you deal with a conflict with a supervisor? That could be your captain, that could be your boss, could be a chief pilot. Somebody's telling you something you do not agree with, and how do you deal with that conflict? So here are 5 steps to help you break down this type of answer. The first step is to remain calm and professional. You want to show the interviewer that you not let emotions get the best of you. We all feel emotions. We get angry from time to time. Maybe somebody said something to us while we're driving. But it's important to not let us react in an emotional state, because usually when we react in a really high emotion state, we make bad decisions and we usually regret what we're saying. So the first things first, you want to calm down, take a deep breath, and maybe if there's time, you can even revisit the situation at another day. You know what, maybe tell that person, I'll talk to you in about 5 minutes, and then go off to the side to the washroom and then come back when things have been calmed down. The next thing you want to do is to clarify the issue, because maybe you yourself did not understand the situation, or maybe you took it the wrong way. So by clarifying the situation, you want to reiterate the points that person is saying. It's very important to understand the other person before responding, and the other person who is giving that type of criticism will actually appreciate you more and know that you're respecting their inputs, because by repeating what they're saying back to them, it's validating their concern and making them feel more welcome and understood. Next, you want to express your concerns to the other person, but not in the typical way that most people do it. You want to avoid saying, you did this, you did that, I can't believe you let this happen. So try to avoid you statements and avoid pointing fingers. So use I statements instead. For example, you can say, this is what I think needs to be done in this situation, because if we do not do it this way, then this could happen. Always stick to the facts, try to avoid blame and try to speak in a calm tone to avoid bringing up any anger in the other person and in yourself. The next is to find common ground. You'll find that 50% of the time you can actually come to an agreement. Maybe you both agree to disagree, and maybe I don't agree with you completely, but just for the sake of safety, let's take the most conservative course of action. That could be maybe you're having a disagreement how much gas to take for the flight. Just to be safe, let's tack on a couple hundred extra kilos, and that way we're actually safe. Later on, we can discuss it and talk to our superiors of whether or not it was the right thing to do. But at this time, let us do the most conservative course of action. This is more of a situation to help you resolve and come together. And this is very common with a lot of countries. You'll find a lot of countries sign treaties where you promise to not to invade the other country by ensuring you follow this treaty. Now, if you do not respect the treaty, that means you're not respecting the original agreement, and that could cause issues down the line, especially when you're talking about wars between countries. So the same thing, you can try and come to a common ground, and that usually resolves 50% of the situations. And then finally, you hope to never get to this step, but it does happen, unfortunately, and that is now when you have to escalate the situation. This happens because you were unable to find a common ground, and instead of letting things get worse, you now want to escalate it, not between each other. You never want to escalate situations between each other and, get physical or violent. That's a big no-no. You want to escalate it now to your superiors. So your superior, if you can. And also human resources, HR. If you're part of a union, there's usually a set process to go through, such as a grievance that you can file with the union, and they'll get back to you and they'll do an investigation. What the interviewer is trying to see, especially if there's a situation where you cannot find a common ground and you have to escalate it, is to avoid two extremes. I always say avoid two extremes. On one extreme is to ignore the situation. Especially if it's a safety situation, you never want to ignore it and be passive just because you're not, being able to communicate your point of view. You want to avoid that. Because in the past, some first officers used to consider captains to be way up here, and you do not want to question the captain, and doing so leads to a bad outcome. On the other extreme, you want to avoid getting really aggressive with your supervisor or captain. So you always want to avoid two extremes. Stay in the middle ground by understanding the other person, asking questions, and coming up with the solution that works for both parties. And if it does not happen, then you escalate it to the next process. And usually in companies, there's always a written formal process to follow. And that's all I have for you. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.